Hello everybody and welcome back to take 8 of episode 16 of the 2 Foot Attack podcast, because OBS is currently shitting itself. So if this is the take that ends up getting published and it's in semi-good condition, then there we go. But the video for this has stuffed up about 4 times now. So hopefully we can get through that technical difficulties. Hopefully we can get through the technical difficulties of my camera potentially dying on me. So if you see a sudden change in lighting from that's peeking through my shutter up there, then you'll know why. And if this episode just doesn't see the light of day and I end up breaking my laptop because of this, then you will know why. But hopefully we can fight through, and hopefully this can be the final take of it. But I hope you all had a wonderful week. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. It's Easter Monday as I'm recording this. And before we get through the football, I ask you all, firstly, before I ask you all to do what you all know I'm going to ask you to do, thank you very much for the support on the last week's episode. Thank you again to Jules and Joe from the Almost Blues Brothers who helped that episode. You came on as guests. Very grateful, very insightful episode, that one as well. So, and the support on it has been overwhelming. So thank you all very, very much. Now, as well, please subscribe on YouTube, like on YouTube, post notification bell, tick that or click it so you get notified whenever a new clip or new podcast comes out. Follow it on Spotify, follow it on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Anchor as well if you want to do it that way. 5-star review on the whole lot would be very much appreciated. And then, what else? TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Come on, do me a favour. It'd be great. At 2 Foot Attack Podcast on all the relevant socials. Now, let's get into the football, please. Hopefully we can get through this, for God's sake. All right, we've got a couple of talking points. Got a couple of tidbits that I want to get through. About 7 in total, but we'll keep it brief. First one, what we're going to kick off today's podcast with was the biggest news story, biggest thing that happened this week in football. It was I'm just trying to put this camera back in focus. There we go. We got it. It was the sacking of Burnley manager Sean Dyche. Now, I've got a couple of opinions on this in a couple of contexts, but to put it bluntly, it was an absolutely boneheaded decision. It was a joke, but most Burnley fans would agree. Now, I'm not necessarily they agree or they disagree in terms of the sacking itself, because Burnley have underperformed this year. Sean Dyche has been there for 10 years. I know change is needed at some stages, right? But you would have, I think most Burnley fans would agree with that sentiment, that if you had to get rid of him, fine, fair enough. It's, in my opinion, what it is the timing of the sacking. Now, it is the 18th of April, he got sacked on Friday, and why do it now? Why do it when there's 7 games left? Whereas if you sack him in February, even early March at the latest, then you give the new manager a good time to get the new manager bounce, hopefully keep them up, and then they can go through with pretty much with a streamlined way through to the new season, right? If they keep them up, great. Or you sack him after the season. If you want to sack him, do it after the season, regardless of if you're up or if you're down. That means a new manager can come in and then do a fresh slate on the club with a full preseason and whatever. To do it now leaves the club in such a horrible position, and it's not only the team in the club in a horrible position. It leaves the team in a horrible position, because they're managed by, I think, the under-23s coach, and also Ben Mee. I'm pretty sure Ben Mee's out for the season, but still, it just leaves them in such a horrible position, and it's almost written them out of staying alive. I know they drew against against West Ham, and I know they were playing football, which was bizarre to see, but it's just an utterly weird decision to get rid of him. Sean Dyche has proven that he can overperform with underperforming teams, or with underwhelming teams, with teams that don't have much backing or don't have much substance to them. He can overperform with them. And he got Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes to a European tour. Like, he made Europe with Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood and Dwight McNeil and like players like this, right? So, I mean, yeah, I think he was the perfect person to keep Burnley up and to keep them going and to keep them fighting this relegation battle. But for whatever reason, I don't know, they just decided that it was best to let him go. And I don't understand it. I don't know the inner workings of the football club. Did something happen behind closed doors? Probably, because there's been utter silence from Dyche. I'm pretty sure Burnley haven't really spoken about it except for their release, which was pretty half-assed if you asked me. And they haven't really brought a replacement. It was Sean Dyche's whole coaching staff as well, so there's no backroom staff to lean on anymore for Burnley. And yeah, just a real boneheaded decision on Burnley's behalf. And now it leaves the squad in a weird place because they've got no manager. And if they go down, why would Cornet and Weghorst want to leave? They've come from teams that have played well. Like, they've come from European teams that have been doing okay. Why would they want to stay in a relegation Burnley team who probably won't even come back up? It's one of those where it's like this sacking, which in the short term was the right decision, could come back to bite Burnley really quickly. Because, yeah, I mean, Sean Dyche will get picked up by another Premier League club without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, and because he's just so reliable. And imagine if he starts getting backing from a board. Like, the Burnley board have put the blame on someone as a scapegoat when really they should put the blame on themselves. They've put no money into the club at all. They've put no money into the club. Except for this season with Weghorst and Cornet, they haven't invested in the team. It's been free signings, it's been cheap signings from the Championship and from League One and what have you. And I just don't get it. I just seriously don't get that mentality of blaming Dyche when it's your fault. And they've left Burnley as a club in a horrible position. I feel sorry for their fans because they don't deserve that. And I think it's going to be just karma when they eventually go down. They're 3 points behind Everton, and Everton have a game in hand. Should Everton win that game in hand, there's going to be 6 points with about 6 games to go. 5 games to go. It's tough. It could happen, and this could come back to bite me. Should they pull a miracle out of nowhere? But yeah, I think Burnley are down. I think Sean Dyche will get a job at another Premier League team, and I think Burnley have shot themselves in the foot by just doing something that they didn't need to do. Burnley have completely shot themselves in the foot with this decision. I think Sean Dyche was the perfect man to keep them up, and the fact that they've gotten rid of him and his whole coaching staff has left that club in a terrible place, absolutely terrible place. And if they're going to go down, I think that's the writing on the wall for them. I think they've resigned themselves to the fact that they'll be playing Championship football next season, and getting rid of one of your best managers in a long time, getting rid of the manager that got Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes European football, is probably going to be the downfall for them. And yeah, I feel sorry for the club. I feel sorry for the fans. I don't feel sorry for the club because again, boneheaded decision. But it is what it is. Burnley are probably going to be fine in the long run. They'll get another manager in. There'll be a new philosophy implemented. And who knows, maybe in 3 seasons' time Burnley will be promoted, playing attractive, expansive, asymmetrical football with intricate lines and what have you. But however much I doubt it, it could happen. Who knows? I think we're done with the Burnley talk because I feel very, very, very sorry for them. But it is what it is. Karma could come back to bite me, but who knows? It might. It potentially will as well. But moving on to a game that happened midweek, and I just won't necessarily talk about this. This wasn't exactly newsworthy, or it wasn't a big story that happened throughout the week. I just wanted to speak about it because it involved my club, Chelsea, and it was Chelsea-Real Madrid. Oh, I wanted to cry after that game. Yeah, no, I mean, it was so demoralising. It was 3-2 to Chelsea on the night, but Real Madrid's 3-1 win at Stamford Bridge a week before saw them go through 5-4 on aggregate, and yeah, it was a heartbreaking game. I thought Thomas Tuchel coached and managed the perfect game. I don't think he could have done anything more to get a result from that game. I thought he did everything absolutely right, and it just took moments from Chelsea players and from Real Madrid players to turn the tide for the Madrid team. And I mean, an interesting thing that I found myself thinking after the game was Chelsea's pillars throughout the season that have always been performing pretty well. Your Kai Havertz, your N'Golo Kantés, your Edouard Mendy's, they performed pretty poorly. I think they had an underwhelming game. I thought Havertz didn't have a foothold in the game at all. Conte had a shocking game, which is very disappointing because if N'Golo Kanté has a 6 out of 10 game, Chelsea probably win that. And Mendy was shaky, unfortunately, as well. So that was disappointing, but it was also weird because the likes of Marcos Alonso, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who played on the right-hand side of like a right wing-back almost and played very well, and Timo Werner were Chelsea's like pillars for that game. They were their stalwarts, and when Werner especially, when Werner came off, Chelsea looked lost. I mean, Werner scored the third goal, and then he got subbed off for Pulisic, I think it was, and Chelsea just looked lost. They just looked lost. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what avenue to attack from. Werner was providing that energy, providing those runs down the channel, and Chelsea lacked that in a big way. But I think the main reason why Real Madrid were able to win that game was Luka Modric. And Luka Modric has now established himself as one of the best midfielders of this generation. He's up there with Xavi, with Iniesta, with Pirlo, with all these guns, and because he just is masterful with the ball at his feet. Absolutely masterful. There's things that he can do which other players can only dream of doing. And it was his individual brilliance and his individual quality that won the tie for Real Madrid. It was. I mean, he's got that Ballon d'Or to his name, which I know some people are debating still whether that was deserved, but you got to hand it to him. He's got the Ballon d'Or under his belt, and he was pivotal in that 2018 World Cup for Croatia. He was pivotal in Real Madrid's 50 million Champions League titles in a row, and he was pivotal in Real Madrid turning the tide around against Chelsea in midweek. And yeah, it was heartbreaking, but you got to sit back at stages. You just got to sit back and applaud brilliance. You just have to do it because there's things that some players can do, which you just got to sit back and admire, sit back and enjoy the show, and that's what Chelsea lacked. Chelsea lacked that individual bit of brilliance. Chelsea are a very systematic team. They don't really have that one player that can find that pass, that can take on 3 players and score. We had that with Eden Hazard. We had that with Cesc Fabregas. We had that with Diego Costa. But now we're just lacking that. And I mean, Real Madrid have that in both Karim Benzema and Luka Modric, and it was Benzema in the first leg who won it for them, and it was Luka Modric in the second leg. And fair credit to Real Madrid. I've given their fans shit, especially in recent times, but held my hands up. Credit where credit is due. You were the better team over the 2 legs. Over the first leg definitely. Over the second leg, Chelsea gave it a red hot crack, but it's a results-based industry, and you can play well all you like, but I'd rather take 38 ugly wins than 38 honourable losses, if you were to call it that. So yeah, good on you, Madrid. I think you'll lose to Man City, but good on you. Enjoy it for now, and your double is still on. I know you've pretty much won the league. I'm not sure about the cup situation. I'm not sure you've made the Copa del Rey final, but good on ya, you selfish pricks. Enough of that. Yeah. So moving on now to another managerial, not change, but an avenue I want to explore. Yeah. So yeah, moving on to what was all but confirmed midweek by Fabrizio Romano, and is that Erik ten Hag just has to cross the T's and dot the I's to confirm himself as Manchester United manager. And yeah, I wanted to speak about this pretty in depthly actually, because there's two ways to look at it. There's the tactical side of things, which I'll touch on, and then there's also the intangible things, if you were to call it that. And the intangible things about this managerial appointment will be massive. It is a complete breath of fresh air. You look at United currently. They're a team in turmoil. Their fans hate the board. The board aren't doing anything to solve that friction. The players look uninterested. The tactics are stale. Or maybe the tactics aren't stale, but the players haven't warmed to the tactics at all from Rangnick. And it's a playing squad that's going to need major overhauling pretty quickly. And it's one of those things where what the tactical side of things means is irrelevant if you don't get the intangibles right. And if you look at United's past, or if you look at United's previous managers, it was obviously post Sir Alex. It was Moyes, Van Gaal, and Jose. All managers that perhaps don't play in the same way, but have similar philosophies of defend, or maybe not defend first, but make sure you don't concede. Obviously, Moyes, that was the pillar behind his Everton team for the best part of a decade. Mourinho, perennial deployer of that philosophy, and Van Gaal, despite his play being a very, 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 very subdued at times, it was their defense first mindset. It was, if we keep possession, you can't score, that type of thing. And what Ten Hag offers is a possession-based system, yes, but it's not in any way as boring as what those three managers employed. However, it is different to Ole's. Now, but actually, before we touch on Ole's, Rangnick's system, I think, is good, right? I think Rangnick's system is good enough for a team like United, but it's obvious that they haven't warmed to him yet. They haven't warmed to his tactics yet, and with 5 games left to go in the season, they're not going to, right? So you just brush Rangnick's time at United under the carpet and pretend it didn't happen because nothing went right. But what Ten Hag offers in comparison to Ole is Ole was coming in completely inexperienced, completely naive to the rigours of managing a team as big as Manchester United, and was playing a system which suited United at that time. When Ole took over, United was sitting in that 4th range where they weren't favourites for most games. Ole came in and played this counter-attacking, quick in transition game of football, which worked well, especially against the big teams. That's why he did very well against City. He did serviceably against Liverpool in most games as well. And in most big games, he did well because his system of sitting back and waiting for the counter and waiting for the transition worked. But when it was his turn to break teams down, as we saw earlier this year, he got Ronaldo, he got these massive signings, he got Jadon Sancho, and now the onus was on him to break teams down. And we saw his tactical ineptitude in that facet of the game. He did not know how to break teams down, and it's all good being able to instruct 10 men to sit behind the ball and lump it long to a target man and then play on the counter. Anyone can do that. Developing a system that can break low blocks down and to break mid blocks down, to play through presses and stuff like this, and to create patterns of play and passing patterns and triangles and what have you. It shows that he was never fit to coach Manchester United. What Ten Hag offers is an experience in managing a big club, because Ajax are a massive club. Let's not underestimate how big Ajax are in Europe, right? And even in Netherlands, it's not even comparable. But they're a massive club. He's got experience. He's not young. He's got experience in managing pretty big teams and for a long time. And his game style is suited to breaking low and mid blocks down. And this is how Ten Hag will instruct his Manchester United team to play to an extent. This is what I've done. Now, this is based off an article that I wrote for Stats Insider a while back. So if you want to read that in its full, if I remember, I'll leave a link in the description. If not, just go on Stats Insider, type in my name, and you'll find it. But yeah, what Ten Hag offers is a very taxing style of football, but not in a out of possession style. Rangnick's system is a very taxing system out of possession. While Ten Hag does employ a high press and it's very intense, it's not as heavy metal high pressing as Rangnick's, right? It is a very, very powerful system. Very, very powerful system. And what it is, it's a 4-2-3-1 of sorts. It's a 4-2-3-1 that in defense plays as a 4-2-3-1. However, in possession, it is almost a elbow formation. Now, if you don't know what an elbow formation is, think of Arsenal with Tomiyasu and Tierney. Tierney would bomb on down the left-hand side. Tomiyasu would come in and play as that right-sided centre-half in almost an asymmetrical three, right? That's what he likes to do. Now, that's what the back four does, right? In terms of in possession, it is a asymmetrical elbow defense, and that transitions into the double pivot in midfield. And the double pivot in midfield is made up of a clearly defined 6 and a clearly defined 8. Now that 6 currently for Ajax is Edson Alvarez, I'm pretty sure. And what his role is to just sit in front of the back four and protect. Pretty much what Claude Makélélé did for Chelsea all those years ago. Sit in front, break up play the simple ball, and just really keep the ball ticking over. He's not like a Jorginho or a Thiago or even like a Fabinho in the sense. He is very restricted in his role, but it suits him. It suits the overall tactic or the overall philosophy and the tactic, right? Now, what that 6 allows is a much more progressive number 8. So, and also, that number 6 will probably be a new signing under Ten Hag. I don't see him playing Matic there. McTominay, I don't see him playing there, and I don't see him playing Fred there. So you'd think someone would be brought in, right? Now, what this 6 does is it offers freedom to their partner, which is the number 8, which under normal circumstances would be Paul Pogba. I do think he's going to leave. I don't think he will be sticking around for the Ten Hag reign. But just look at Ryan Gravenberch's game at Ajax. It's going to be very similar to that. It's very aggressive, very advanced, gets into advanced positions, maybe 30, 35 yards out from goal when the team's in possession, and then makes those 30-man runs if the ball gets out wide or if there's a goal mouth scramble type thing. He likes very powerful and explosive players in that role so they can get up and down the pitch and provide that physical presence. And this like asymmetrical formation in the midfield creates a really weird and difficult system to defend against because it's not conventional, if that makes sense. So this sets his system apart, because if you look at other double pivots, say Chelsea's double pivot with Conte and Kovacic, or Conte and Jorginho, or whoever, they pretty much play square on from each other. They get up and down pretty much the same way, and they have very similar roles. This is completely different. They have very different roles. Edson Alvarez and Ryan Gravenberch have very different roles and have different responsibilities within their side. Now, if you move up the pitch, now I said it's a 4-2-3-1. However, it can be a 4-2-1-3. And what I mean by that is because the wing backs sit very high and very wide, and another facet of Ajax's team currently is their dominance to the right-hand side. Ajax like to play down that right-hand side quite a bit. And what it means by that, what it shows by that rather, is that it creates space for the left-hand side. Now, while there's a massive overload over the right-hand side, what it creates over on the left-hand side is a balance. So you have space over for the left winger, and then the left fullback sits in that asymmetrical system in that elbow formation system, but just a little bit more advanced, creeping up to pretty much where the double pivot would normally sit, right? So this overload over the right-hand side with the right back, the right centre mid, which is grabbing the birch, or that number 8, and the right winger, is that it creates space over the left-hand side. Now, this overload is helped by that number 10. Now, that number 10 is Dusan Tadic for Ajax. But think of him as like what Antoine Griezmann plays for France. Very free-roaming, very expansive way of playing football, where he can roam in between the lines, drop deep to collect the ball, and he can get beyond the first striker, play as a shadow striker, as a second number 9 as well. So those 4 players dominating that right-hand side creates major space over on the left-hand side because the whole team gets sucked in. Now, that left-hand side, for me, that is a perfect role for Jadon Sancho. And I know Jadon Sancho is a right winger, and with United's team, I could very easily seeing Ten Hag mirror his formation and flip it around to play Sancho on the right with Wan-Bissaka as that elbow defender, that defender that holds back, and then overloading the left-hand side. I can see him doing that. But what Sancho is good at is taking the ball in space and driving. He's not the quickest winger in the world. He's not lightning quick, but he's very technical, extremely technical. So when he's given space to run into, and when he's given a one-on-one situation with the defender, he'll torch them nearly every time. So if he can, the more times you give him that space, the more influence he'll have on the game. So that's why I think that he should play in that role for the Ten Hag team, whether that's on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side, depending on what Ten Hag wants to do. Yeah. And with the number 9, obviously it is, I forgot his name. Haller? Yeah, well, it is. I forgot his first name, but he's having a very good season, and the reason why is that the system completely revolves around the number 9. The number 9 drops deep, creates that extra man in midfield type thing, so it is almost a 4-1, a 4-2-4, but with no striker, because they drop deep, collects the ball, and then make a reverse run into the box with the ball going out wide. So Ajax do love to get balls in behind. That's one of their ways to score, which in the Premier League notoriously doesn't really work because of how deep teams tend to sit, especially when you verse teams in the relegation battles and stuff. They tend to play in low blocks and mid blocks that are very quick to transition to a low block. So that's probably something that Ten Hag needs to adapt his game with and evolve with. But what Ten Hag brings is that a very powerful system. It can be very deadly. Very, very, very deadly. And it's going to be very interesting to watch, man. It's going to be very intriguing to watch because there's something about a Ten Hag team with this United team, with the backing that they're going to give him, which is going to be fucking sexy to watch. And as a Chelsea supporter, I am scared. I am very scared. But, I mean, as a neutral, it's going to be great. If he gets the backing he deserves, and if he gets the players that fit his system, then it's going to be one hell of a watch for Ten Hag next season. And speaking of the players that he would want to get, it is a tricky situation because in my Stats Insider article, I've written down a predicted lineup. Now, I'm looking at this lineup and I see at least, well, there's a couple of players there who would need replacing. And for me, immediately, is that if he's going to stick to this system, is Wan-Bissaka is not fit to be an advanced right back. Scott McTominay needs replacing as a number 6. And Harry Maguire needs replacing as a centre-back, but that's a different story. And you'd think that Ronaldo might move on And obviously Paul Pogba as well. So there's 3 players, and Ronaldo might move on, but let's just assume he doesn't. Looking at a right back, it is difficult to say because there's a lot of right backs that are obviously the modern day right back. But for me, the player that screams out, not as a right back obviously, but as a defensive midfielder, it's Yves Bissouma for me. Now, obviously, I did say Bruno Guimaraes in January. I thought that was the guy that they needed to get. Obviously, he's gone to Newcastle and he's killing it, right? But if they can get Yves Bissouma, pending obviously his legal battle, which I won't touch on this episode. If it evolves, I will touch on. But pending that, hopefully that goes all good, and hopefully that's just allegations at this stage, and like everything is cleared. He's the number one man that United need to get. Number one man. Because he can do a lot that Ten Hag doesn't need him to do. So imagine what he can do when he's just focused on one role. If he can just be focused on playing that defensive midfielder, destroyer role, he could be very good, man. Like very, very good. And obviously you have Declan Rice as well, who can play that role superbly. He's obviously another option. But obviously you got to look at the price differential, right? Yves Bissouma will probably cost 50 million lower. Declan Rice 100, 120, right? So there's that for the number 6. For the right winger, I mean it's tricky because there's a lot on offer, but there's not a lot that are viable. And to replace Paul Pogba, you're thinking someone that can break the lines. You're thinking someone that can take the ball and advance from deep as a number 8. You're thinking someone like a name's not even coming to my head at the moment, but someone like a Jude Bellingham, I think, would fit perfectly in that role. I mean, do United want to spend $450 billion on Jude Bellingham? I mean, it's up to them. But Jude Bellingham, for me, would fit perfectly in that role to be that number 8, alongside someone like a Declan Rice, or he is Bissouma. Right back, take a pick. And then, obviously, the squad does need fleshing out. Luke Shaw potentially isn't the strongest. Marcus Rashford potentially isn't the strongest. Will Ronaldo stay or will he leave? Who knows? Maguire needs to go. De Gea as well. But we spoke about that last episode. So, I think it is the right choice. Overall, I think it is the perfect choice, in fact, because he can do a lot. He can do a lot to transform this team. And this team needs transforming big time. So, hopefully that they can sort it. Hopefully that they can get it done quickly for their sake, and hopefully we can see Erik Ten Hag in the Premier League and seeing just how good he actually is. Because it's all well and good doing it for Ajax, with all due respect to Ajax, but if he can do it for Manchester United, then we've got a new kid. We've got a new manager on the block that can rival Conte and Pep and Klopp and Tuchel and the like. So hopefully that can happen. Will it happen? Who knows? It looks like it's all but certain. Will it pan out the way we all think it's going to pan out? Who knows? But very exciting times for United. And this is probably the first time United fans can get really excited about the team in a long time, because not a lot's going right for them. But hopefully this can turn the tide ever so slightly. Oh yeah, nice. A nice drink of some freshly squeezed water. Okay, moving on to... There's a couple of bridging talking points, and then there's... we're going to speak about the FA Cup semi-final soon, and then we're going to get on to the who went into footed. But a couple of things I want to speak on briefly. The Rickets family finally have fucked off from West London. They have withdrawn their bid to own Chelsea Football Club. Every Chelsea fan across the world breathes a massive sigh of relief. They are the antithesis of what Chelsea stands for, and they are not welcome here. So the fact that you've pissed off back to Chicago to ruin the Chicago Cubs makes me very happy, and makes me very grateful that Twitter and the online community of Chelsea have stood their ground, because this could have gotten very ugly very quickly, but it didn't. They've pissed off back to the USA. hopefully that's the last we hear of them for every football club in the world's sake, because they're not good owners at all. And then, there's down now to 3. My personal pick, if I had to choose, will be the Todd Boehly consortium. There's obviously plenty of valid criticisms of the man and his business, or maybe not his business, but his consortium and the people in him, just like there are for every business person in the world. But he'd be my pick. Fingers crossed for my sake anyway, and I think it's not a universal, but it's a pretty unanimous consensus that Todd Boehly's the one for Chelsea. And I mean, he's a season ticket holder at Stamford Bridge, sits in the Matthew Harding lower end of the ground, which is the right hand side of broadcast for those who are unaware of Chelsea geography. Sits there, and he's a Chelsea supporter, season ticket holder. I think there's a life season ticket holder as well. So he's the one you want, in my opinion, but who knows at this stage. And I'll tell you about I'll tell you another scenario which no one knows at this stage is who's going to make top 4. Because for some reason, no team wants it. No one wants it. And obviously, Tottenham currently sit 4th, 3 points clear of Arsenal and United, but Arsenal have a game in hand. No one wants it. Obviously, Tottenham bottled it to a beautiful Leandro Trossard goal in the 90th minute against Brighton, and then obviously Arsenal lost to Southampton, who Chelsea bet 6-0, by the way. And yeah, it is just a obviously, and then you speak about United, who tried their best to not win that game against Norwich and got bailed out by a Ronaldo hat-trick. So it is one of those things. Who's going to get it? Who the fuck knows? Literally, who the fuck knows? Because on paper, United have the strongest starting 11 by a country mile, but they're the furthest back. Assuming Arsenal win their game in hand, they're the furthest, but they've got more to chase. Tottenham have the better manager. Arsenal probably have the better team cohesion. If I had to pick, gun to me head, I'd say Tottenham. Just like whoever gets it is going to scrape over the line in such unconvincing fashion. Like it's not even going to be. I'll tell you what I'd love. West Ham to win the Europa League and take 4th spot off and take that Champions League place. I think that's still a thing. That might be still a thing. Because I know it happened in 2012 when Chelsea finished 5th, won the Champions League, and took that Champions League spot off Spurs, who finished in 4th. I know that happened. But, hopefully, I think it's going to be Spurs. I do think it's going to be Spurs. I don't see anyone else catching them. It's going to be Spurs, I reckon. It's Spurs. But, unfortunately for me, it's Spurs. Would love to see Arsenal do it, though. Would be great. But hopefully West Ham win the Europa League so we can see them versus Barcelona at the Camp Nou next season, if they make it. Let's move on to the FA Cup semi-finals, which are now finals. So the 2 FA Cup semi-finals have now been decided. Sorry, that's wrong as well. The FA Cup final has finally been decided as both semis were played over the weekend. It was Manchester City 2, Liverpool 3, and then Chelsea 2 versus Nil Crystal Palace. And I mean, the Chelsea game, I'll speak about that ever so briefly. Nothing much happened. Chelsea just kept plugging away, and then ended up getting the goal through Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And then Mason Mount scored not long after to seal the game for Chelsea. Not a lot to be taken out of that game. I know Kovacic got injured. Fingers crossed it's not long term, for God's sake, because he's probably our best midfielder at the moment. So please recover. Again, just putting the camera in focus because it loves to go out of focus, this camera. And then obviously the City Liverpool game, which I will touch on pretty not in depthly but just briefly. And oh boy, wasn't it a completely different game to the one only a week ago. I think this game showed a couple of things. City's depth is not that good. I mean, if you look at City had a pretty rotated team. They had Fernandinho, Ake, Zinchenko, Stefan playing. All played underwhelming games. And I mean, and if you look at the first goal for Man City, for Liverpool, you take Laporte, Rodri, and Ruben Dias out of that team. They're very short. Very short. So Liverpool were always going to be a threat from corners. And it was Ibrahim Konaté who scored the first, and then Zach Steffen with a moment he would like to forget, I'm pretty sure, to cost City the FA Cup final. I think by that point it was game over. But yeah, you're not Edison, mate. Stop trying to play out from the back like that. And then it was a beautiful piece of footballing. It was a beautiful piece of footballing splendor from Liverpool on the edge of the box to score their third. And then Mane's shot, yes, it was scuffed, but it went in, so I'm not sure anyone cares. And yeah, City obviously made a valiant comeback, but they did fall short, and it is now a Liverpool vs Chelsea FA Cup final, which I really don't want to happen. I'm shitting myself. And obviously we'll do an extensive preview and review of it when the time is necessary, or when the time is appropriate. But early thoughts is I really want us to get revenge. Obviously Chelsea have a very poor record at winning FA Cups, so hopefully we can get the job done. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully Liverpool could have bigger things on their minds. A Champions League final in Paris, potentially. We saw what the Champions League final did to distract Chelsea last season. So it is going to be interesting. It is going to be very interesting to see what comes from that game. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Liverpool can complete their treble should they get through in the Champions League. So that's going to be interesting, and yes, that's enough for the FA Cup final reviews, semi-final reviews, and semi-final preview and final preview. Also, one more thing, actually, Liverpool's midfield is gorgeous. Like, Fabinho, Thiago Keita is marvellous. Like, marvellous. It is seriously good. Seriously good. And this game proved that they are so good when they're up and running. That's their best midfield by a country mile. Sorry, Jordan, but it's not. But you're not in that midfield, mate. Yeah, that's their midfield by a fair stretch. Let's move on to... Actually, before we get into who went into footed, I just want to give myself massive props for predicting Villarreal to beat both Juventus and Bayern Munich over 2 legs. Give me... Come on, when you went, give me a round of applause, please, because that was... I'm pretty sure I was the only person on planet Earth to predict Villarreal to beat Bayern Munich, so... I mean, Unai Emery has that team ticking over, man, and Liverpool are going to be... It's going to be a tough game for Liverpool. And if Villarreal can beat Liverpool, there's no reason why they can't win the final. But I do think Liverpool will get through. But we'll do a preview of that when the time comes. But yeah, I mean, Villarreal are just so defensively and just midfield, they're just solid in every facet of the game. So I'm really happy for them, really happy for Unai Emery, really happy for Villarreal as a city. So yeah, hopefully that their magical run can continue. But let's move on to who went into footed. Basically, if you don't know, this is the only segment on this podcast where I outline who went into footed, which means who did something daft, who did something dumb, who did something not smart, who did something just fucked up. Who stuffed up. It can range from players to fan bases, a little bit of foreshadowing there, to pundits, coaching staff, managers, whoever. And this week it is the Man City fans. And I'll preface this by saying, not all Man City fans. I know some of them. I'm good friends with a Man City fan. He's a very, very good person, a lovely bloke. But these Man City fans are at Wembley cheering through the minute silence for the Justice of 97 tribute, obviously remembering those that unfortunately passed away during the Hillsborough disaster and in effect of the Hillsborough disaster. those City fans that were cheering during that can fuck themselves. You disrespectful gits. Piss off. Like, oh, that made me so angry. And yeah, it was, yeah, very unfortunate to see, because you don't want to see that. But we'll move on before I get even angrier at the fact that some people think it's appropriate to do that. But let's do a quick preview of the week. Obviously, there is a Liverpool United derby on Wednesday, Chelsea Arsenal derby on Thursday morning, that is Australian time, and then obviously Arsenal United, Chelsea West Ham, and then the Merseyside derby as well. Obviously, the Serie A title race is hotting up. As well, with Napoli playing Roma, and if Napoli win, then they really punch themselves back into the title race. And yes, it is going to be interesting to see where the week takes us. Obviously, so I think we're done. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you all for listening. Well, have a good week. Christos Anesti to all the Orthodox people out there celebrating Easter this weekend. And yes, so see you guys next week. See you guys next week. Chat soon. This time in a week. Stay well, stay safe. See you guys. Goodbye.